Hi guys, welcome to this episode. I'm here with Dante, the owner of Lifestyle, a streetwear brand, and we are here to talk about his creative journey and what it means to go through a creative journey in general. And yeah, we just finished recording and I think it's a sick episode, so I hope you guys enjoy. How would you describe yourself and the work you do?
My name is Dante. I'm a clothing brand owner called Lives Arts. Professionally, I do marketing for a marketing agency, but on the side, I run Lives Art. The whole thing behind Lives Art is about self-expression. It's about being yourself. It's about staying true to yourself, doing what you like rather than following trends and kind of faking it to yourself. But yeah, that kind of sums up the work I do, I guess.
So your journey with starting off your brand basically came from the fact that you just didn't see essentially what you wanted to wear. You saw too many people wearing the same thing, and you basically, I would argue, just trusted yourself and like really followed your intuition.
Yeah, precisely. The lives that started in 2020, December 2020. I was working at McDonald's at the time. I was back from uni for Christmas break, and I wanted to buy a graphic T-shirt, but at the time, I don't know why, all the graphic tees I was seeing were of Tupac or of Biggie, and I was just like, I don't really want to have that. Everyone else will have it. So then I was just like, maybe if I can draw something and then put it on a T-shirt.
But was it almost like you wanted to wear something like that, and then you saw the options there, and you thought like, no, I don't fuck with this.
I've always been into fashion. I grew up in Poland, so like in Poland, I would always try to replicate what I was seeing on like Disney Channel, Nickelodeon. So I was always kind of trying to think of something different. So then when I was seeing that everyone's just wearing Tupacs and Biggies, I was like, And then the next closest thing to it was like SpongeBob graphic T-shirts. I was like, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what pushed me into kind of trying to create something myself that I would like and it'll be different, like no one would have.
Yeah, and I definitely think that you incorporating your own drawings really differentiates you from anything else. I like, what is your inspiration behind your drawings, your art? Because it's sick.
It's actually 50-50 case. One is I didn't know how to use Photoshop and I didn't have access to Photoshop.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, I could. Well, my brother had an iPad at a time. And I was like, kind of just looking at what the faster, cheaper version of achieving what I wanted would be. And that was getting Procreate on his iPad. And just start sketching. My first drawings were absolute ass. Like, they were so bad.
So that actually came from not being able to actually make graphics.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Exactly, yeah.
So do you look back and kind of see that as like a blessing in disguise?
Yeah, I do. I really do. Because I feel like the graphics I make are just very different. I feel like if I knew how to use Photoshop at that time, the graphics I'll be producing now would be very standard.
Yeah.
Like very kind of what you see around.
No, but it adds a lot. I would argue that it adds so much more depth to your work. I want to understand, like, when you draw, what is your inspiration behind it? What do you like to draw? What are your thoughts behind it?
I like to draw anything, to be honest. I always call myself a fraud because if you give me pen and paper or even pencil and paper and ask me to draw something right now, it will be ass. Like, I can't. That's why I'm saying I'm actually a fraud. I can't draw traditionally.
Yeah.
But
No, I'm the same.
when I have the iPad and I can kind of, in iPad you can like reverse something and then
Yeah.
you can
Yeah,
do that.
yeah.
So because of that, then I can have like a reference picture. I can sometimes even like go over the reference picture, zoom out, and then start doing it myself. So yeah, I like to draw anything that catches my eye. Like, for example, I'm wearing Basquiat now, and I was like, I'm not a good realistic drawer as well. So I was like,
Thing is, though, I would think that you drew that on with a pencil and paper.
nah. This is on my iPad. Well, it was on my iPad, yeah.
Wow.
So obviously you can change the type of like.
I might actually try that out.
Yeah,
You
you should.
inspired
Yeah,
me.
honestly,
Yeah.
you can change like the style of the pen or whatever. So I chose a pencil style. So I guess maybe that's why. But
Right.
yeah.
So I've actually quoted something that you said when you were just describing like your work and what basically creativity means to you. And I want to read it out. So you said that my clothing brand simply acts as a vessel where I can be creative and expressive in many ways. And I think that speaks volumes in the sense of what creativity actually is and what purpose it actually brings us. Because today there is such an overload of media, of people copying one another, and you've managed to create an extension of your identity through trusting your intuition, and you're essentially pouring all of your creativity into something that helps you express your identity in a different form. And I think that being able to do that is the most important thing, because you're actually able to see your identity translated into a physical and also like visible form. And I feel like people that don't have that would typically have a problem with actually understanding themselves. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like when you make your own samples, when you create your own stuff, you look at it and you see yourself in it. You see that this is who you are.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, with that quote, what I meant is that I like to look at a lot of different things. Like, I'm into gaming, I love movies, I love art, fashion, just a lot of random stuff. So with this brand, I feel like I'm able to put that all together. So for example, one of my drops was Everybody Eats.
Mm-hmm.
And it was heavily inspired by the movie Paid in Full. It's actually what they say. One of the characters says that in the movie. So I was like, cool, let me draw that. So I drew Money Making Mitch, which is a character from the movie. And then I was like, how can I replicate the movie, but on a budget, I guess. So I kind of came up with an idea where I'll have three people, right? I'll have three people and I'll have them pass around like a plastic bag, but instead of drugs, it would be like a sticker, Lives Out sticker. So I filmed it in a way where they were passing that around, like, passing distributing the food type thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I feel like with Lives Out, it gives me the ability, gives me the chance to kind of combine whatever I like and kind of put my own spin on it and just having a go at it, to be honest.
That is really interesting that you said that, because I mean, recently I feel like I really relate with it, because I feel like I've been trying to juggle just so many different things at once. And literally this week, I realized that why don't I just merge all of it together? Because at the end of the day, they're all creative ideas, they're all creative forms. So for example, with music producing, the whole time I would treat music production and podcasting as two complete different things. And there was always just that one thing that I felt like was missing in my podcast. I felt like I was, explaining a lot of different ideas and a lot of different concepts, but I was never actually showing any, like practical examples of it. And music is the best example for that kind of stuff, because I'm actually going through trial and error. I'm actually going through a creative process. And now I've realized I actually need to combine those two things together. I need to document my music on this platform. I need to show what it actually looks like to repeatedly go through different failures. And obviously that's a bit different from what you've said, but I instantly just thought of that like creativity shouldn't be a separate thing, and whatever inspirations and ideas you get, you can relate it into whatever else you're doing, and you can also adjust it to fit what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So what made you choose the name Life's Art? Because when I saw your brand, I instantly just loved that you chose such firstly, a true phrase, a true statement that life's literally art. And I feel like when people wear it, it's just such a short, catchy, cool reminder that like life's art. So, but how did you think of it?
So again, it all goes back to that kitchen in McDonald's. Originally, it was supposed to be history art. I was going to put like Malcolm X and MLK and whatnot, draw them and put them on T-shirts. But then I was like, that was just gonna put me in a box that I won't really be able to do anything else with. So I was like, let me sleep on it. And then again, I was flipping burgers like a week later, and then Lives Art just came to my head. I really like the name of it. I don't know why it just did. I was like, yeah, Lives Art makes sense. I'm gonna be drawing stuff, so I guess expressing myself. And then yeah, the name just stuck. And after that, I came up with the motto: "Create the art of your lifetime."
Yeah, I love that.
Thank you. But yeah, that also just came naturally. I wasn't sitting there like writing drafts like, yeah.
Really, because I was.
Nah, honestly, it just came to my head.
I was thinking of every single name out there, and then I just look at my middle name and I'm like, fuck it, Healer.
Yeah, honestly, that's the best way to go about it sometimes.
I think it's so sick how you've managed to create such a mixed media form of clothing.
Yeah.
Because I really think that is the route forward today. I feel like if you are good at one thing today, and if you focus on only one certain field today and fail to bring in any other forms of media, you won't really succeed as well as you can. Firstly, because I feel like access to so many things today is so easy. So I really feel like you took advantage of that.
Yeah. I mean, the way I see it is as well, it's like, I mean, at the end of the day, creativity or being creative is really not that deep. Just do whatever you want. Like, I mean, look at A$AP Rocky. The guy went from rapping to fashion to now he's in a movie with Denzel. Like, it's like, do whatever. Like,
that is the dream.
You shouldn't really put yourself in a box.
No.
Like, whatever.
No, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that idea later, actually, about the whole box. So this is another quote that I've picked up from you. I'm going to be quoting you a lot today. You said that creativity is an extension of our humanity / individuality. Develop on that.
I mean, it's with anything, the decisions that we make about how we want certain things to look. Mm-hmm. Like, we might not think about them very deeply, but those thought processes are still happening there. For example, get on a train, like you can get on a train today and you'll see one guy that decided to zip up his hoodie all the way up. And then there's a girl that decided to like leave it halfway down. Like it looks like it's not deep, but like at the end of the day, they chose it because they liked it some way that speaks to them.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's what creativity is. It can be as minor as today I'm gonna tie my shoelaces, but tomorrow I'm not. I'm just gonna kind of like loosen my shoe. Like it's really, yeah.
I always think about that, by the way, but I always think about it in the sense of routine. So the way we get out of bed, what side we get out of bed, what we do first. Do we change? Do we brush our teeth? How do we brush our teeth? All of those minor things that we may think are nothing are really just us back in the day creating that routine in the first place. And I almost feel like forgetting about that and not being aware that everything in our life is a creative idea, we almost forget how present and how dominating creativity is. I also think creativity is just the reason why, that's why the human race is like so successful compared to every other animal. Before we make anything, before we make this couch, before we make this notepad, we have a vision of what we want it to look like. We think with this notepad, okay, we want some lines on it. We think with this couch, okay, it's going to be green. They're going to be 2 big pillows. And, I always say this, that without the vision, you don't know how to do anything. If you think, exactly. For example, with you, if you turned around one day and said, if you wanted to make a clothing brand before actually knowing what you wanted to make, you would struggle on how to make it. You would say, I want to do fashion. I want to make a clothing brand, but I don't know like what I want to do. So you'd be basically trying to go through endless routes of what you want to do, without really understanding it. So I really think that creativity is such a subconscious thing, and it comes to us. And that also kind of makes me think that we don't choose what we like in a way. I mean, that's like
I don't know.
a philosophical
It
debate.
is actually,
but
it is, yeah. I feel
free
like
will
to some
determinism.
extent, maybe not. But at the end of the day, I don't know. You still choose what you like, or like what you choose to do in your free time, I guess.
Yeah, but in the sense of like, for example, when I came up with the idea of having a podcast, I couldn't tell you why I wanted to do it. I was thinking,
Fair enough,
why
fair enough,
why
fair
do I
enough.
want to do it? And it was almost like someone was just speaking to me in my ear saying like, you have to do this. Someone asked me why, I don't know. And, you know, I feel like it's up to us. We owe it to ourselves to follow that.
Yeah, I don't think you always need a reason as to why you're choosing to do something.
No.
Like, if you have to justify everything you do in your life, then that's a bit.
And that's the whole idea as well of, I think, being realistic. And I talked about this in one of my episodes. And I think being realistic is such a joke. Because what does that even mean? Like, imagine you told someone, yeah, I want to make a clothing brand. And they're like, be realistic. You have no time for it.
I mean, there were some people that said that, to be honest. But yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's certain things you should be realistic about, I guess. But no, I hear it. Just because it doesn't make sense to you, that doesn't mean it doesn't make sense to them, type thing.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah.
So in terms of where you're at right now with your creativity, where do you want it to take you?
Where do I want it to take me? I mean, I look up to, in terms of this fashion thing, I look up to guys like Clint with Cortez, and
Yeah.
A$AP Rocky's the ultimate guy.
Yeah.
But so I guess that's where I want to take it with Lives Art. But in terms of just like, I guess day to day, year on year type thing, I just want to continue to express myself. Like I was supposed to drop a tracksuit in April.
Oh, what? This one?
Yeah.
What happened? Sensitive
Oh
topic.
my gosh. It's on the way. I promise you, it's on the way. But yes, I mean basically what happened was the initial stock got stolen the day before it was supposed to be shipped, and then
Did you have to pay for another?
no. Me and my guy like this, so I didn't have to, because it was like he said, it's not even your fault. It's not my fault. So yeah. So that just delayed it, and then because of the political state of the world, there's some delays, and it's just long. But the tracks are on the way.
Oh.
But what was I saying?
Sorry to hear that. That sucks.
Yeah, it does. I had a whole plan for this year, and got thrown out the window. But it kind of is also a blessing in disguise, because it allowed me kind of take a step back, kind of reevaluate certain stuff and look into different stuff. So
Yeah.
there's always a blessing in every problem, I guess. But in terms of where I want to take this is, I just want to continue to express myself. So for example, I have a video idea that once the tracksuit stock actually arrives, I want to film like a preview type trailer in like a horror style. So yeah, there's things like that. I got so many ideas.
You should write them. Do you write them down?
Yeah, I always write them down. Yeah,
I feel like every idea that I don't write down,
it's a lost idea. Yeah,
I lose it.
yeah. Because there was one time I had this sick idea, and to this day I can't remember what it was. But I remember waking up. It was a sick idea.
Same.
Didn't write it down. And I can't.
No, but I feel like you have to learn your lesson
Yeah,
one way or
exactly,
another. And I
yeah.
feel like we've definitely both learned our lessons with that.
Yeah.
So this is getting a bit philosophical, but I also feel like this is a very relevant question to ask. Do you feel like, in terms of who you are and your identity, do you believe that your creativity leads you, or do you feel like you lead your creativity?
I think the creativity leads me, to be honest with you. Just because, yeah, I'm trying to think how to answer it. It definitely does lead me.
I can give you an example, like
Yes,
with
please.
me, for example. I really feel like creativity leads me, which almost makes me think that, every idea that we have, everything that we follow, we're not really in control of, because I don't really know. But I definitely feel like creativity leads me, because when I started to open up in terms of like my opinions, my ideas, I instantly started to find, I guess, the art industry so much more interesting. And in the past, I'd always think, oh, I don't have a chance in this, I'm not going to try it. I don't have a chance in that, I'm not going to try it. But a year into me podcasting, I realized that like this was a stepping stone for me to actually experiment with something else, and for me to actually like try something in that field, and to also just drop out of my degree, I think, and like to go into fashion. Because when I was recording one of my episodes on what is creativity, I argued that we all need to be creating something, we all need to be doing something in order to actually feel fulfilled in ourselves. I believe that a lot of people that carry unhappiness and envy towards others, it's not real unhappiness, it's just a lack of self-love, it's a lack of self-trust in terms of expressing yourself. And then I realized that my degree wasn't bringing me anything that I was preaching, and I was really, really into fashion at that point. So I realized that I need to get into the fashion world. So what I would argue, if I hadn't started this, I don't think I would have had the stepping stones to actually pursue music and pursue fashion, because it really highlighted like my values. So I feel like we all kind of need to start somewhere, and that's why I think that creativity definitely leads us, and we don't lead creativity.
Yeah, I do agree. I mean, the whole reason why Lives is about is because I just wanted to wear something different to everyone else. So yeah, I do think creativity does lead us. Yeah.
Do you feel like your personal growth is determined? Oh, that's kind of the same thing. By how? Yeah, I mean, do you feel like your growth is determined by how you execute your creative work? Do you feel like if you're not creating something every week, every day, do you feel like kind of loss, or?
Yes and no. It's a hate love relationship. I'll be real. There's been times where I've been on like a streak. Like I'll be drawing every single day, coming up with stuff every single day, and then I will hit a wall, and
Yeah.
like everything I was making was just rubbish.
Yeah.
So it is a love hate relationship. I don't think there's a recipe to it. I don't think, you know, it just depends, to be honest. I'll be honest with you. It is very good to stay consistent. I must say that. Like, I do try to do something at least once a day, whether it's, I don't know, putting on a fit and snapping a picture, or drawing something, or, you know, designing a video shoot that may or may not even happen. But in terms of how intense it is, it does vary from day to day. So yeah, that's the way I see it.
I want to move on, and I want to go back to your idea of how we're all limited in our own box, because I believe we all grow up building this box. We all grow up believing that we need to, I mean, obviously we need to follow rules and the law and stuff, but obviously when we're growing up, we have such a different idea of what life is. So it's so easy to basically create a box. And I feel like everyone creates different size boxes. And I also believe that most of our creativity and our vulnerability actually lives outside of that box, because a lot of the time being creative is going against what other people are doing. And I think being vulnerable comes with the fact that we could so easily be rejected, and any sort of uncomfort comes with stepping outside of our box. And I was in a workshop yesterday ran by this networking group, and this woman was incredible. She led the workshop, and she talked about this box, which is why I kind of wanted to talk about it today.
I do think I wouldn't even call it a box. I would say definitely a bubble. Everyone does have their own bubble. And I do agree the best way to grow is to pop that bubble and create a bigger one or step outside the box. Because, I mean, for majority of my life, I was convinced that I was going to become a professional footballer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I used to take football so seriously.
I feel like a lot of guys say that.
Nah, I'm talking, it will be school, get home, quickly do my homework, football train. Like, I would train 5 times a week. I would have matches twice a week. Like, it
Oh,
was
wow.
serious. Like,
Right.
I was genuinely convinced that I would be a pro footballer. So like that was my own bubble. And then once I finally accepted the fact that that's not gonna happen, that burst my bubble. Which kind of actually that was around the same time that Lives That came about. So this is what I mean about it's good to burst your bubble or step outside that box because you never know what you might find and like what other things are out there. That's why it's also good to speak to a lot of new people because they also show you different perspectives on stuff.
So that's actually quite different from what I imagined stepping out of the box to mean. Um, but nevertheless, like that is so true at the same time that just accepting that like something isn't going to work out and just allowing us to like feel uncomfortable with that is so important. I think feeling uncomfortable is really important. Like, not to sound, I mean, everyone talks about it, but we all somehow try to avoid being uncomfortable.
We're gonna turn this into one of them David Goggin podcasts. But
Literally.
no, 100%. Yeah, no, it is very true. Yeah, yeah. As I say, pressure makes diamonds, I guess. But
Yeah, I mean, I try do something uncomfortable every day, whether that's just having like a cold shower, even though it's not, a cold shower is not really something like huge, but you are uncomfortable while
yeah,
you are
yeah,
having a cold shower. Like,
exactly.
I hate it. I hate them. Yeah, I do them every day because I feel like that's just, you owe it to
No,
yourself.
I hear it.
I feel like a lot of people are defined by their fear of failure and also their pride. And I think, even us too, like we carry some pride, whether it's low or high. And I think that is just such, I don't want to say human flaw because that's so harsh, but it's definitely something that really gets in the way of just human potential. And it's so ironic because, social media has made that so much worse. Yet we have managed to get access to so many people that we wouldn't typically have access to if we didn't have social media, if we didn't have our phones. It's just so ironic that as much as we're creating, a lot of us are also not creating and are struggling with creating. And I don't know if that's maybe because of population size, because we have a bigger population, so obviously there'll be more creatives and more people that are, not so much. But I do think that we all generally go through a struggle of just understanding how to express ourselves because, as a beginner, if you're a beginner in anything, you're going to be shit. Like, you're going to be bad at what you do. And it's such a humbling experience and almost like a demotivating experience. It's almost like a slap in the face. I mean, for me at least, like with music, there was a whole month where I actually couldn't make anything because firstly, I was so demotivated. And I don't know, like the word beginner, I really resonated with that and just feeling like a complete failure in that field. But obviously that is a creative process and, we need to kind of just accept that we are beginners right now. And I feel like a lot of us avoid that feeling. Also with the podcast, I mean, when I first started recording, I felt it was the first thing that I actually really tried to put an effort in. And I felt like such a beginner. And I felt so humbled. I felt like my pride went all the way down. Like someone just like popped my ego. It deflated. And especially with like being vulnerable, I feel like that takes away so much pride because I feel like pride's all about, showing that, just showing an image of you being, this invincible human. So feeling like a beginner and also having to express vulnerability while also failing at pretty much every step of the process just feels like the biggest slap in the face. And I feel like a lot of us avoid that.
Yeah. I would say I didn't really struggle with the beginner part. It was the after part. It's a case of cool. How long can you be a beginner for? That's what I kind of struggled with. Because when I was like very open minded with lives at the start, I was like, I'm just throwing myself into this. At the time, I was convinced that my graphics were sick. Looking back, those drawings were questionable. But that I was never was like, oh, I'm a beginner. I'm a bit nervous. It was more of a case that once lives started to pick up some traction, once people start being a bit more interested in the brand, then I began to kind of like look over my shoulder and look like what other people are doing.
Yeah.
And then I was seeing, cool, I've been doing this for like a year, 2 years now, and I'm only at this many followers, or I've only done this. But this guy's started at the same time, and now he's on this and that. So that was more of like a slap to an ego rather than being a beginner. I guess comparison, innit?
Yeah.
Is a thief of joy, as they say. But
I mean, I feel like comparison is just such an it's such an instinctual thing. And, you can't really escape that. I think the only thing that, all of us can do with comparison is to understand where it's coming from.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, to answer your question, I didn't struggle with the beginner part. I struggled with the after part with, I was questioning like, cool, am I really a beginner now? I've been doing this for this long. Should I even be calling myself a beginner? So I was struggling with that. But I realized that, you know what, I'm still at the start of my process. Like, just because I've been doing this for 2 years, doesn't mean I'm not.
Do you still consider yourself a beginner?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I don't know.
What are you still trying to understand?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I just feel like I think it's just consistency in terms of like drops and stuff. Because at the minute, I've only had one year when I was consistent. I was dropping every other month.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like once I get that, sorted out, that's when I'll probably switch from I'm not a beginner, I'm in the intermediate part now. But at the minute, I still class myself a beginner.
Yeah. And to be fair, I think that has so many benefits because it's always good to kind of... Also, people that say, like, I always want to be a student, they're basically saying that they always want to be open to learning new things. And I feel like the word beginner also brings that. And I feel like also calling yourself an expert in any field, there's no such thing, because there's always so much that like we can do to learn. I don't think anyone can ever be like a master in any field. I mean, they can, but
no, I
think
people
open to improving.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can reach a certain level. Like, you're cool, no one around me is at my level at this current moment of time. Well, like, that doesn't mean in 2 years some guy pops up and he's got crazy stuff, or she's got crazy stuff, and like you're too prideful to be like, cool, they know something else, let me learn. So I guess
I don't think there's like a ceiling or like
exactly, precisely. Yeah, that's
like
what I'm trying
the
to
ending.
say. Yeah.
Okay, you've mastered everything. There's nothing else you can learn.
Yeah, there's still, you can be like, cool, I've mastered everything.
But
there's nothing to learn for like a year, but then the second year someone does something like, okay, cool, I need to learn that now.
Do you know, that's actually where I think we as society are now, because I feel like we have, as society, as like humanity, we've all, learned so much and achieved so much in terms of technology, architecture, art. And I feel like now we're almost at that ceiling that there's no such thing. And that's why now I really feel like mixing different forms of work and actually going into different things, like, for example, mixing graphics with fashion, that is the new way forward, because that opens a whole new world to exploring a whole new thing. I mean, do you know Robert Greene? He writes a lot of books about human behavior, and like, don't ask me why, but when I was 16, I was obsessed with those books. So there was one book that I literally read twice because I thought it was incredible, and it's called Mastery. And he actually came up, well, he didn't come up with the idea, but he brought that idea to me, and I've been thinking about it since. That basically what I'm saying now, in order to actually have a chance in society to actually bring something different, you actually need to offer something different. And there is so much knowledge out there that right now, like, we can't really afford to study one field. He's talking in terms of like academia.
Yeah.
But I would relate this to anything. You know, in order to be unique and to be different, you need to have an understanding of different works, of different, you know, if we're talking about academia, if you're just studying straight physics your whole life, well, everyone's done that in the past. There's been physicians in the past that have literally just done that.
Yeah.
And now, for example, let's look at physics and art. I think, you know, do you know what I mean? I feel like that is the way forward in terms of where we're all going.
Yeah, interchanging different subjects and stuff like that. Yeah, definitely. There's just so much you can do in one specific field. So once you start merging them, I guess, yeah, like
You
opens up new
ideas,
exactly
new fields within that. If you never developed your clothing ideas, and if you never actually started a brand, what do you think your life would look like right now?
I don't even know. I really don't know. I mean, I would still be into fashion, but honestly, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
As in, do you think that it's changed you in any way? Do you think that you've grown with it? Do you feel like you'd be a different person?
Potentially, yeah. I never really think about that, but now that you bring that up, yeah, most definitely. I feel like I wouldn't. I mean, I would still be into fashion, so I'll still be throwing fits together, whatnot, but I wouldn't be as creative, I guess. Maybe I would draw here and there, but I don't know. I've always been into art, so it wouldn't. Like, I would still be interested in the same things that I'm interested in now.
Yeah.
But I guess, honestly, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure.
Fair enough, to be honest. Like, it's good that you don't really think about that. I wanted to talk about trends, specifically fashion trends. Firstly, what do you think about them?
I mean, trends are cool. Every trend is a good, I guess, a door for any beginner to, I guess, get their foot into the door, or whatever the saying is. So I don't necessarily disagree or look down on trends. I just feel like sometimes there comes a point where you need to kind of step back and be like, cool, I've engaged with that. Let me move on. Also, you have to stay true to yourself. Like, just because something is trendy at the minute and you don't like it, doesn't mean you have to engage with it. So, like, for example, when I first started my brand, it was very trendy to put like logos and stuff across your crotch. And I never liked it. I was like, it looks weird. Like, I don't like it.
I feel like Courtiers made
Exactly.
that.
No, he did. And even for him, like, I never really, like, I respect it, but I was like, yeah, it's not something I would want to do. But everyone else was doing it, so it would be easy. It would have been so easy for me to just slap Lives Art across the crotch and be like, yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
but
I would
chose not to
instantly
do it.
think of Clint, and I would instantly think of his
Precisely,
brand.
yeah. So,
I mean, I think trends are. Firstly, I think they're an opportunity to discover.
exactly,
new
that's what I was trying to
ideas.
say. Yeah, you can
So,
discover stuff.
I think trends are good and bad, and I think that is like the one really good thing. You can discover new ideas, you can discover new tastes, you can experiment with essentially not being afraid of what you might look like, because in that moment it's trendy. In that moment, like, you're gonna be validated for wearing that because you're cool, right? In that specific second, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And that is what is also really bad about it, because if you are always dependent on trends, then I don't think we or anyone that would follow trends and are so heavily dependent on it would actually have any form of strong identity. With trends, I think if we're all way too dependent on it, we almost just fail to actually understand our own tastes. And businesses that are dependent on trends are trying to firstly capture a specific market, so they don't have their own creative freedom, they don't have their own personal brand. And not to say that that's a bad thing or anything, but if we're looking at creativity, obviously, you know, it's not that great if you are someone that is dependent on that kind of stuff. So I think that it's really good that you're not, and that you have your own personal brand and you have your own personal freedom. I also think that it's so good to have people that you look up to for inspiration, because I think inspiration is everything. It's so important. And it's also so important not to imitate them. And I think like you've really created that boundary of, I'm looking at you as a form of inspiration and I respect your work, but I'm gonna take it in my own way.
I mean, I was close to imitation at one point, you know. With my first, like when I first started Lives Art, the first like a major photo shoot, which was like the Hourglass. I really, like I was really influenced by like Cortez's style.
Yeah, I was actually gonna go on to talk
Yeah,
about
I was really influenced by that. Not in terms of like how the pictures would look, but in terms of like what he had the models do in the picture. So, you know, his stuff are usually, you know, very like street, like this is London type thing. So I kind of, I was like, cool, I'm going to try to replicate that. But then I was like, I don't know. It didn't really let me, one, it was quite obvious that I was trying to replicate something that's already been established and someone already does so well. And two, it was just not really fun to do. Like,
Wait, are you talking about that shoot?
yeah, the first shoot, yeah.
Yeah. So you were, what, the whole shoot you fully just tried to imitate?
I was not imitate, but like I was heavily influenced. I was like, at the back of my head, I was just constantly thinking of like, what would I see on like Cortez's page?
Right.
And then try to be like, cool, maybe I can do that. But after that photo shoot, I was just like, I don't know, it's not fun. Like, it wasn't fun for me. And I liked having an idea, like, because I like knowing what I'm doing, or like I guess knowing what something should look like. So like when I pulled up to the photo shoot, I kind of just said to the models like, yo, meet me at this spot. And then I just started taking pictures from that spot. And like the pictures were just so random. I mean, it was a successful photo shoot, but they were just so random. And after that, I was just like, I could lean into this, or I could be a bit different. And I was like, since I'm drawing stuff, maybe I could do so that photo shoots reflect what I'm drawing. And and then I decided that from now on, any campaign that I'm going to shoot is going to be reflective of either the garment that I'm wearing or the graphic that's on the garment. So for example, with the tracksuits that I promise you are coming, the theme.
Do you promise though?
Yeah, no, I promise.
Pinky.
Yes.
Pinky out right now.
I would definitely promise. But the whole premise behind it was, you know, people associate tracksuits with like comfortable wear. So I was like, cool. You'll be doing the same stuff every day, but you want to stay comfy. Ooh. The idea behind this tracksuit is same shit every day. So like all the videos I made was like what I was cooking. I went to throw in my rubbish, like daily mundane stuff, but like.
Yeah, I saw that and I really liked that message that you were bringing through. I think
Exactly.
it's also really unique. I don't see.
So that was the idea behind it before everything went to shit. But prior to that, prior
Do you know
to
what?
that,
You should actually take it as a compliment that someone took your stuff.
I guess,
Like
yeah.
there is something there.
Yeah, true. Someone did say that. Oh, I'm getting free marketing right now.
Yeah.
Wow, I'll prefer to have that, you know, in my house. But all right.
Imagine the guy just DMs you all girl.
Yeah, so someone sends me a picture. Yeah, I'm wearing your stuff. But yeah. After that photo shoot, I decided that every future campaign has to have a theme behind it.
But that is so telling that it shows that you actually need to like take a leap forward to actually understand what your next leap is. You like, not that was necessarily a failure, but you know, it was something that really shifted your path. And shifted your identity as a brand. And that, I think, is just the most important thing in terms of the creative process, and not seeing that as a failure and seeing that as, okay, this is part of my journey. Now I'm going to change. Now I'm going to do this. And it's so interesting how different things in different environments, and I guess people can bring, different perspectives and different ideas to what we're doing, and can also help us change our perspective on things.
Yeah.
I always think of the creative process as, well, I have this image in my head of this flower just blooming. And I think part of that process is just detaching from people, in the sense of like stop hiding behind the work of others, because there's so much work out there. Like, this is a piece of work, the mic is a piece of work, so it's so easy to hide behind that. Obviously not a mic, but like as an example.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
So I think we've covered everything. Cool.
That's a wrap.
That is a wrap.
Thank you
It
for
was
having
so
me.
nice having you. It was so
Thank
nice
you.
speaking to you about
Thank you,
everything.
Thank you very much. This is a very cool opportunity.
Yeah.
I never did a podcast, so this was very, very cool.
My first guest episode. It's the
Good
first
job,
time
good job,
I'm.
good job. Well
Yeah,
done.
thank you. I was waiting for that.
Well done. Honestly, you're a great host.
Oh no.
This
no,
felt like a nice chill chat.
I'm telling all my friends that I'm literally having you as the first guest